Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala barakatuh. Alhamdulillah rabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala syarfil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Alhamdulillah. In the previous 3 videos, I've explained to you an overview of why we have this epidemic of anxiety and depression throughout the world. Because as we develop more and more in terms of the technological advances, it seems that more and more of us are on the edge. More and more of us are depressed, more and more of us are having anxiety, and more people are just killing themselves with suicidal ideation and tendencies for really very small reason or purpose. So I have explained to you that basically there are many signs and symptoms of anxiety in our book. You can go back to our book, Post-Islamic Psychology. Your feeling of restlessness, tired, inability to control your feelings, having anxiety, difficulties in concentrating, inability to focus on anything, or your work, or your life, or your family, short temper, frustration, irritability, martial tension, disturbed sleep pattern, and so on. So you must have this symptom for a prolonged period of time. That's why you have to do the diagnostic. And I've explained to you the anxiety diagnostic. You go back to our previous video, I've explained to you the various diagnostics that we have given to you. I have also explained to you the whole range of anxiety disorder. Agoraphobia, phobia of places, situation that you tend to want to escape. For example, like fear of height, fear of public, fear of speech, fear of something. Specific phobia, very specific in terms of insects, snakes, spiders, blood, whatever it is. Social phobias, anxiety in performing, whether in performing in terms of speech, or maybe sitting in an examination, or meeting people for the first time, and so on. Then you have OCD, then you have PSTD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Alright, and you have the whole stress factors that is affecting there's anxiety disorder. So if we are going to tackle anxiety in the sense that it becomes more and more of a norm in terms of our lifestyle today, and a lot of people will actually have GAD. Alright, GAD, that is generalized anxiety disorder, which is not very severe, but generally they feel sad. Persistent worry, typically moderate in intensity, which may ebb and flow, but tend to occur more days than not. Patients describe themselves as being tense, nervous, and constantly on the edge. They often fear that something bad is about to happen, even though there is no reason to think about it. There may be no obvious reason for worrying, but they may also result in worrying more about health, about money, about family. And GAD can be exacerbated by additional stress event, real or image. For example, like going through divorce, going through failures in examination, or facing major disaster, and so on. And then we have this whole range of panic disorder, where people just panic out of unexplained reason, so-called unexplained reason. And there are many causes of anxiety, panic disorder type of anxiety. I'm going to give you some idea of how this whole cycle in terms of panic, anxiety. That means you have, first, these are the various physical symptoms that you can see. For example, you have an anxiety that increases. You have shortness of breath, so you tend to ventilate. So you have the shortness of breath. Then you have this panic. Anxiety, you tend to think that you are going to die, or you are short of breath, and you think that suddenly you're going to faint. And sometimes people faint. Then further shortness of breath, then your muscle become tense. Your muscle is tense and it gets tired. Your shortness of breath increase, and then your anxiety increase. So this whole cycle of panic attack goes through a cycle that will then go through an increase within 10 minutes, and then over time it will decrease over maybe 1 or 2 hours. But during that 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes time, when you have this increased anxiety and increased panic attack, you think that that's the end of the world. And there seems to be no reason and no purpose why this is happening to you. But there are reasons, there are purposes that, for example, if you go back into the various issues that you have to face. Alright, I have listed a few here. For example, in terms of, you have, for example, specific patterns of thoughts, your inner speech. In our PICBT, we know that we can use our inner speech dialogue technique, ISDT, the positive inner speech. Even though you have your pattern of specific thoughts in terms of anxiety and panic attack, they are very negative. All right. Number 2, trauma. You have a trauma in your lifetime, whether it's as a child or maybe an accident. Exposure to shocking events or abuse. For example, you're abused as a child, or you're exposed to some very severe social or psychological event in life. Then you have overprotective parents who protect you. You also have unsupportive families. You also may have tendencies, genetic tendencies. These are some of the reasons that you have anxiety and panic attack. So this is where we have to find a way of intervention. So I'm giving you a simple approach to give you this idea that this cycle can be reduced or cut. So I'm going to give you a 5-minute healing. Okay, 5 minutes healing of anxiety. People say, is this possible? Yes, there are many techniques within our approach, but our approach must be to look at all this cycle within the realm of S, E, M, and P. That means our intervention, when we look at all this issue, we must have the ability to look at anxiety or panic attack or any of these related issues that you face from the perspective of the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical. Because if you do nothing, you have anxiety, you have shortness of breath, you have panic, anxiety increasing, you have further shortness of breath, you have your muscle tense up, then you have further increase. So this is a negative cycle. It's getting worse and worse and worse. This is a vicious cycle towards your own self, perpetuation of this panic attack and anxiety. And this can happen many times. That means once in a while it comes back again, but if it is happening more and more and more and more, you do not seem to know the reason why. But I have given you the reason. Maybe you can reflect back. That is through our approach in terms of PICBT. All right? Inshallah, I'll go further on this anxiety, but I'm going to give you some remedy. A 5 minutes healing approach for anxiety. Inshallah. You may believe it, you may not believe it, but it can be done. And there are many, many approaches to anxiety that Rasulullah ﷺ has inferred within his lifetime. He explained to you. For example, Rasulullah ﷺ explained for people who are having anger. For example, you take anger. When you are angry, he recommends that if you are standing, you sit down. If you still cannot resolve that, you lie down. All right? So there are 3 stages. All right? You also are encouraged to take wudu. All right? So you can infer that within the protocol of Islamic Sunnah, there are ways of overcoming anxiety. Anxiety is a form of fear, a form of anger, and it comes from the realm. From Islam, it comes from the realm of both the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical. That means it is not only a physical manifestation. Your shortness of breath, your anxiety can be the negative inner speech, thoughts that you can try to break. So how to break the cycle in 5 minutes? Inshallah, I'm giving you one technique. For example, if you're having panic attack, the first thing is to sit down. All right, you sit down because your breathing is ventilation. So what you do, you take a deep breath. As you take the deep breath, you can then do some simple zikr to remove this anxiety, because this now you are being attacked by negative thoughts. So these negative thoughts FET, the negative feelings, emotions and thoughts is affecting you. So what you do is you want to kill this cycle. You want to reduce this cycle. You want to remove this cycle. So what you do, you breathe in, and then there are many ways to do it. One is to say, as you breathe in, you hold, you say, La ilaha illallah, quietly. La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah. So when you do that, your shortness of breath will then be this fast-paced breath will then be reduced. That means now you are forcing your breathing pattern instead of fast-paced to slow down. And to slow down, you use what? La ilaha illallah, because we are told to remember Allah in all the time. Or you can use, for example, as you breathe in, as you hold and breathe out, we say Astaghfirullahal Azim. Breathe in, Astaghfirullahal Azim. But you know your breath is you know you are in this, so you are forcing an issue in which you are not fighting directly, but you are going back to the spiritual realm of Islam. This realm of the spiritual to intervene your physical, because your spiritual will have the capacity to overcome your emotional, mental and physical realm. This is the beauty about Islam. So once you have that, you can overcome these negative feelings, emotion and thoughts, because now you are not thinking nothing. You are not thinking of your fear. You are not thinking about your panic attack. You are not thinking about that attack that is coming in. You are turning away from that attack to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's a very simple method. Alright? So you can, what do? As you stand up, you sit down. You sit down. If you sit down, that's good enough. And at a later stage, when you already come, you can take the wudu. And as you take the wudu, make this zikr as part of you, and then you use your ISDT. Alright? At this point, once you have tackled at the first level, the second level, then you increase with ISDT, inner speech dialogue technique, which is in our book, where you reflect upon yourself internally by saying, Inshallah, I'm okay. Why should I panic? Why should I worry? Inshallah, everything will be okay. Inshallah, everything. So you begin to have an inner dialogue that is linked, alright, to your Asmaul Husna or your La ilaha illallah. So this is the spiritual aspect, and then this is your feelings and emotions that you are removing so that it becomes positive. Alright? So this is within the 5 minutes you can do. What happened then if another attack come or another anxiety come? You repeat the cycle. Alright? Because here you are not trying to force yourself, trying to resolve yourself of all anxiety. But momentarily, you are trying to remove the panic attack. You are momentarily trying to bring back yourself at a higher level of thinking, higher level of feelings, higher level of existence by bringing and surrendering to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is very simple. It's a 5 minutes healing approach for anxiety. You can try this approach, inshallah. Give these ideas to friends who are having this problem of panic attack, fear, worry, waswasa also. There are many approaches to waswasa. Inshallah, we will explain to you in other videos. But these are simple techniques that inshallah, within the framework of Islamic psychology, positive Islamic psychology, we can use one of these very, what we call instant technique, which you can apply and use it in a way that you can reduce anxiety, reduce panic attack, and lead a normal life. You can use it in many situations. For example, you are going to an examination, you have anxiety of your examination, taking your examination. You think you're going to fail. You look at the paper and say, die lah. That is the negative feeling, emotion and thoughts. But if you swing away by quietly remembering Allah with La ilaha illallah or Astaghfirullahal Azim, and then seeking Allah help in quietly through your heart using inner speech dialogue technique. Remember, go back to our book. There are many examples. And then using Asmaul Husna, inshallah, you would be able to heal yourself so fast that inshallah, with the grace, the mercy and the love of Allah, you have no anxiety, because this dunya is just temporary. All of us will have generalized feeling of sadness, GAD, which is okay, no problem. Sometimes we feel sad, it is normal. Sometimes we feel more sad, which is quite normal. But if we know that this life is transient, that Allah has ordained a life for us that is good, that we can be happy, we can be fulfilled, we should have less anxiety about what is happening to this dunya, whether it is in our personal life, whether it is the political life, whether it is the situation of this whole world that is now going into dogs. We have sabr. We have this idea And remember this technique. So if you are having panic attack or you're having anxiety, sit down, relax, breathe in, say Astaghfirullah al-Azim, or breathe in, La ilaha illallah. And inshallah, I'll give you many other techniques in which we can actually resolve a lot of our psychological problems by understanding this integration of the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical self, that we would then lead a peaceful, happy, fulfilled life, being the true and sincere servant of Allah, always striving to make ourselves good, helping others to be good, making the world good, inshallah.